Have you ever felt like someone was trying to dim your light? Not because you did something wrong, but simply because you shined brighter than what they could handle. They thought they could control you, shape you, maybe even break your spirit. But what they didn't know is that their attempt to suppress you was the very thing that sparked the final flame, the one that would burn through every old limitation, every outdated grip of control, every force that ever tried to keep you in a cage. This is a message for Sagittarius, the nomadic soul, the truth seeker, the archer who aims straight into destiny. And this time you don't need to fight to win, you just need to keep walking, and your light will do the rest. I promise you, if you stay with me through the end of this video, you won't just understand why everything that's happened lately had to happen. You'll also receive a sacred confirmation that your victory will shine so brightly. Those who once doubted you will regret ever trying to dim your fire. Write this down to connect with the frequency of your divine breakthrough. I'm ready to rise and claim the victory that was always mine. If your heart is stirring right now, tap like, share this message, so your light can reach other souls standing at their own crossroads, who need to be reminded of this one truth: you are not alone, and light never has to ask for permission to exist. Sagittarius. My dear, today's 3 cards, 6 of Pentacles, Page of Swords, and the Empress appear not as predictions, but as a direct conversation between your soul and your present moment. They whisper to you, the scale is finally tipping toward fairness, toward reciprocity, toward restoring what you poured into others when all you got back was silence. A sign will arrive soon. It'll be quick, clear, unexpected, and it will demand your full presence. No more delays, no more detours. Something bright inside you is awakening. As long as you're willing to prioritize yourself, to care for yourself like the sacred presence that you are. But with that light come distractions. There's a moment, a conversation that may seem small, even forgettable at first. But within it lies the missing piece you've been searching for all along. Your intuition is whispering. Listen now, not after everything has unraveled. Ignore it and you risk replaying a pattern that once shattered your heart. So stay, because what I'm about to say next is the key to unraveling the knot that's been holding back your freedom and your faith. Before we move on, write this in the comments like a sacred vow. I'm ready to live my truth and receive what matches the vastness of my soul. Let it be a doorway. Let it be your signature on a new contract with life. And let it reach the deepest part of you, the part where your old questions still whisper in the dark. Asking for light, come closer, dear one. I'm not giving you a lesson, I'm telling you a story. A story meant to be heard over tea, at a wooden table, with the breeze softly stirring the dreams you haven't yet lived. I know lately you felt swept up, not because you're fragile, but because the current inside you is changing direction. And that change requires courage. This shift isn't loud, but it is real. The first card, 6 of Pentacles, appears like a mirror, reflecting every quiet act of generosity you've ever made. Every time you showed up with your full heart, even when no one was watching, even when no one said thank you. You once believed those moments vanished into thin air, but the universe doesn't work like that. Every act of kindness you gave, a comforting word, a moment of grace, a silent sacrifice, has been kept, stored, honored, and now a door opens. Something delicate yet deeply real is on its way to you. A sincere offer, a connection that feels safe and seen, a support that asks for nothing in return. Financially, the weight is about to lift, not from a miracle, but from your shift in self-worth. You'll stop negotiating your peace. You'll stop labeling your energy as a good deal. You'll begin to price your presence according to your truth. Then comes the Page of Swords, more restless in its energy, but sharp, clear, awakening. This isn't a comforting card, it's a truth trigger. I see you reviewing every detail, going back through conversations, trying to understand how you ended up at that emotional intersection. And then suddenly a small detail, a slip of the tongue, a passing comment will pierce through the fog. The missing piece will fall into place. But this card also brings a caution. Don't let your mind overpower your knowing. Too much analysis will suffocate your intuition. Not everything needs to be solved like a puzzle. Sometimes you just have to feel it and let your soul guide the way. Take a moment, pause, breathe in deeply, and ask yourself, am I listening to myself, or am I still trying to prove something to the world? And then she arrives, the Empress, the Queen of Fertile Ground. the guardian of pure creation and quiet care. She doesn't ask you to do more. She only asks you to come back home to yourself. She doesn't want you to prove anything. She wants you to tend to yourself, as if you were the garden from which all your future will bloom. When was the last time you cooked a meal just for you? When was the last time you lit a candle in silence and said to yourself, I did well today, not for applause, but because you deserve to hear it from your own voice? The final message today isn't far away. It's not out there. It lives in how you treat yourself after every wound. The universe doesn't clap for those who endlessly endure, but it opens the doors for those brave enough to say, I deserve something beautiful and I don't need permission to receive it. And that is the first whisper of a brand new chapter about to begin. Write this if your heart is stirring. I have come home to my own light. And if you ever forget how strong you are, come back here, read this again. Let it remind you of what has always been burning inside you. A spark begins to form. A vision starts to call your name, not because it glitters, but because something deep within you finally said yes. When you choose yourself, your energy becomes undeniable. And suddenly, the world outside begins to reflect the quiet blooming that started from within. When you allow it to happen, when you rise not for anyone else, but because your intuition says now is the time, a subtle web of synchronicity takes shape. Eyes meet with unspoken understanding. Laughter echoes from a place your soul remembers. Sagittarius, you're not just a traveler of landscapes. You journey through layers of emotion. You seek freedom not only in geography, but in the wild, vast chambers of the heart. And I feel it. A new life force is returning, not with noise, not with fanfare, but through tiny cracks in the door you once locked shut. That door is now quietly opening. You no longer say, maybe another day. You take a step, a small one but a real one, and that one step triggers a chain of divine alignments. Signs, synchronicities, meetings that feel like you've known each other for lifetimes. And let me be clear, I'm not talking about the crowd. I'm speaking of subtle closeness. 2, maybe 3 souls on your frequency. Not loud, not judging, not trying to fix you. They're just there, like a hug with no arms. A hand that doesn't grip, just rests gently to remind you, you are not alone. And then, I see the 8 of Swords, not to shame you, but to reflect what you've been silently enduring for too long. A decision you've postponed out of fear. A truth you've known but couldn't name. Maybe it's a relationship that no longer feeds your soul. Maybe it's a role, a label, a burden you picked up because you were afraid to let someone down. Afraid that if you let go, there'd be nothing left. But here's what I want you to know. Those invisible ropes around you. They're not discipline. They're delay. They're the quiet prison of hesitation. And today, I'm not asking you to burn it all down. I'm inviting you to do one small, sacred thing. Become aware that you're no longer who you used to be. That freedom isn't selfish, it's honest. Say something, ask something. Circle a date on a calendar. Start that conversation you've been avoiding. Even if your voice trembles, even if you're unsure, say, I need, I want, I can't keep carrying this. And then you'll see, when you become honest, the world will reorganize itself to match your new truth. And in that moment, just when you think you're about to fall apart, 2 cups appear. Not as a promise, not as a fantasy, but as resonance. A gaze that matches your soul's frequency. Someone who not only hears your words, but listens with their heart. They may have already been near you, but now, you're both tuned to the same channel, or maybe it's someone entirely new. A presence that feels like the map to a home you've never been to but always sensed. They don't come with lights or stages. They arrive in the form of small, meaningful gestures, a cup of tea, a question without motive, a presence that asks for nothing. And then comes the question, not from me but from somewhere deep within you. Am I truly ready to be loved? Not the kind of love that's chaotic or dramatic, but the kind born from mutual respect. Emotional safety, and the feeling that you never have to shrink, to be worthy. Aren't you tired of shielding yourself? Of saying I'm fine when your throat is tight and your eyes sting? If so, then come with me. Place your hand on your heart, gently, and say these words out loud, not to convince the universe, but to finally hear your own voice. I'm ready to choose life. I'm ready to choose my inner freedom. I'm ready to let love in without playing a role. I'm ready to walk through the door I once avoided. I don't need to know what happens next, because today I choose me. And when I choose myself, the world begins to choose me too. And if you're hearing these words right now, dear Sagittarius, I don't believe it's a coincidence. A part of you has prayed for this moment. A part of you is ready to whisper, I don't want to repeat the same old cycles. And a deeper part of you knows something greater is waiting, but only if you're willing to leave the cage you've locked yourself in. In the next part, I'll tell you a story, not a fairy tale, but a story about someone who dared to leave their comfort zone to arrive where they truly belonged. A place where laughter isn't forced, where you don't need to become someone else just to be allowed to stay. I now choose only what uplifts my soul, with clarity, with deep respect, and with quiet dignity. Say it slowly, no rush. Let the words unfold like an opening, not to prove anything to the world, but to mark the sacred moment you come home to yourself. Sagittarius, listen to the voice in your heart. Feel its vibration against your chest, in your sternum, your lungs, the very space you occupy. This is not some airy-fairy mantra. This is a grounded declaration, a way of reminding both yourself and the universe that you've redefined your boundaries, and you're strong enough now to move forward with a new standard unapologetically. When the cards appeared, I saw it clearly. Your life is beginning to click into place with such breathtaking precision. You're softly closing old chapters, where you once gave until empty, clung tightly out of fear of loss, or stayed silent, afraid to ask for more. Now you're returning to a slower rhythm, a gentler truth. You're showing up for yourself with sincerity, not chasing approval or temporary validation, but living on your own terms, rooted in values that come from within. And yes, this shift will shake things around you, much like when you finally move a piece of furniture that's been sitting still for too long. There's sound, there's dust, there's a little chaos, but this is not disaster. This is the heartbeat of a life being rearranged, in harmony with who you truly are. So choose loyalty, but not to the past. Choose loyalty to the best version of you. It's a quiet act, but filled with power. And on this path, I want you to bring your light into the realm of the physical, not just the emotional. If you've been feeling unseen at work, if you've been giving more than you're receiving, then today's reading, especially the Six of Pentacles, is pointing to a door. The door of balanced exchange, the door of honest conversation, the door of clear value. Peace is not free, and defining your worth is not arrogance, it is wisdom. You deserve to be compensated for your time, your energy, your essence. A negotiation, a proposal, a boundary around your hours. These are not selfish. They are sacred acts of self-respect. And if you hesitate, remember, the universe doesn't just respond to vague dreams. It vibrates with clear decisions. When you choose yourself, the world begins to choose you too. And don't forget, Sagittarius, you weren't born to be last on your own list. Don't hide your gifts in a drawer. Don't sacrifice in silence and call it kindness. Structure doesn't dim your light. It brings you back to your inherent dignity. Start with the small things. Clean your space. Wash the curtain. Let light into that forgotten corner. Move the lamp where it belongs. Let go of objects that carry old weight, not just in mass, but in memory. Keep what carries the breath of tomorrow, and smile when your home begins to reflect the you that is emerging. And if someone offers to help, let them. You don't have to do it all alone, because in every shared action, dusting, rearranging, telling old stories, healing happens without needing a name. And in that sacred moment, I see the Page of Swords, young but sharp, like a child learning to observe before reacting. Be careful what you assume from a brief message. Don't let a fleeting status post shake your heart. Don't misinterpret someone's silence as rejection. Sagittarius feels deeply, and sometimes your powerful imagination turns on your own wounds. Before you jump to conclusions, ask. Before writing a tragic story, breathe. A kind message, a calm conversation might soothe the storm you thought was coming. Protect yourself with clarity, not with withdrawal, because when you choose conversation over retreat, you may discover that reality is far gentler than the fear you carry. And if you're still here listening, I imagine you nodding softly, relieved but hesitant. That's a good sign. That's the whisper of a heart awakening to the truth. I don't have to live on the defensive anymore. And then the question arises, can I really do this? Can you? Not because you're a warrior, but because you're a student of life. Every heartbreak taught you how you deserve to be loved. Every season of waiting trained your patience. and every time you shattered, you had the chance to choose yourself again. From a stronger place, don't chase perfection, chase truth. Don't play the hero, be steady, be honest, be free. And this time, your first step won't feel like a leap into the unknown. It will feel like your foot finally landing on ground that has been waiting for you all along, a place where you no longer pretend, a place where you don't need permission to live. And because I know you love rituals, you love turning words into actions, turning feelings into ceremonies, I invite you right now, place your hand over your heart, take a deep breath, and if it feels like the right moment, write down a vow, a prayer, a promise. It doesn't have to be grand. It just needs to be real. If you feel called, share it in the comments. I vow to live true to myself with every breath, with every choice. Because when you write it down, you release its energy into the world. And sometimes, that alone is enough to begin a brand new chapter. Leave just one line. It doesn't have to be perfect, just honest. A way to mark this moment when you chose yourself. I choose myself with tenderness and take the first step to free my own soul. It may seem like a small gesture, but it's the beginning of rearranging your entire way of living. When you whisper it out loud, even softly, you are rebuilding the very foundation of your reality. And I leave you with those words, carrying the scent of someone who has walked through the prison of self-doubt and emerged clear, just, and full of love. These days, you might feel something from the past echoing back, like a soft vibration, almost silent but impossible to ignore. Maybe it's because you're still energetically connected to a soul from your past, or maybe you are the one walking through someone else's dreams. Either way, this is not the time to chase shadows. If something or someone wants to return, it must come with sincerity, not more tests. If not, let the memory do its true job, to remind you what you will never repeat again. At the same time, open your awareness to a new door quietly swinging open. It's not loud or flashy, but it's real, a proposal, an opportunity, a collaboration. A plan you once set aside because you weren't ready is now knocking again with completely new energy. I see it coming close like a story that feels like a 3-minute moment, but becomes the foundation for the next season of your life. You're looking at the cards or at the signs in your life, and something whispers, there's more. And you're right, something is happening beyond your line of sight. A gaze is watching you from a distance, not with judgment, but with reverence. A feeling is about to rise that's strong enough to shift the way you see yourself, and the physical foundation around you is beginning to steady, so you can finally rest in your mind and in your chest. Don't rush to pull back the tablecloth to check if everything is perfect. Stay here with me just a little longer, because what comes next won't just be a feeling, it will be something you can touch with your own hands. Let's close this part with an image of who you are becoming, not just on the outside, but in the energy you now radiate. When I say image, I don't just mean the new hair, or the clothes you're wearing, or the way you now walk down the street. Though yes, you might change all of those, not to impress anyone, but because something inside you has become clear. It's a different feeling, a new rhythm, a kind of energy that's both calm and radiant. What moves me most is how your outer world is beginning to reflect the truth your soul has whispered for so long. This isn't a makeover for attention. This is a blooming from the roots, a freedom that's deeper, one that doesn't need to shout. Like the soft morning light pouring through your bedroom window, gently waking you with its presence, whispering, it's time to live honestly. And I promise you, someone will notice. They'll say it with their eyes, or maybe even with words. You're different now. There's something peaceful and beautiful about you. And it's true, Sagittarius, you are different, not because you tried to be, but because you survived the darkest nights of your soul. And now, you carry a lantern in your chest. It doesn't blind anyone, but it warms the entire room. Now, you've allowed yourself to become softer, braver, and more real. And I want to gently touch a topic that you may have been avoiding with work, with busyness, or with silence. That topic is love, or a connection that was never fully resolved. Maybe it's something romantic, or maybe it's a bond with someone significant, not out of possession, but because two souls once crossed paths and left behind a trace of light that never fully faded. A glance, a song, a moment when your hands brushed, a scent that brings them back to you. It's not random. It's a signal, And when it happens, you'll need to ask yourself, is this longing or is it destiny? Is this a hole wanting to be filled or a door that's truly meant to reopen? Not everything that returns is meant to stay, and you, someone so deep, so sincere, must learn the difference between a love that's called by loneliness and a love that's born from wholeness. Between someone who returns because they are empty and someone who returns because they've grown. The cards today, they do suggest a return, maybe just in thought, maybe in dreams, or maybe in real life they'll appear at your doorstep. But the decision will always be yours, and that decision, it won't come from the fear of being abandoned. It will come from the mature intuition inside you, the part that already knows you deserve love without sacrificing yourself. If they return, let them speak truthfully. If they don't, then let the silence confirm what you needed to understand. And if you need a declaration to begin a new chapter, write this with me. I choose myself with love, with clarity, and with honesty. You don't need to shout it, you just need to believe it. And you'll see, when your hand rests over your own heart, the world will rest its hand on your shoulder and whisper, we've been waiting for you for a very long time. The most beautiful part of this moment of maturity is, you no longer let urgency define love. You no longer let loneliness make your choices. You no longer hand over your inner safety to someone else. Now you choose yourself clearly, gently, firmly, and that choice, which may look personal, is quietly changing the way you love, the way you reach out to the world, and the way the world begins to mirror back the light that is healed within you. 3 cards appear together, like wind chimes ringing softly from the porch of a warm home. 3 of Cups, Knight of Cups, and 10 of Cups. They're not just symbols, they are invitations home. I hear familiar laughter around a shared table, gentle hugs, a warm voice calling you in. An old friend reaches out. A simple meal turns into a reunion. A small word of congratulations, quietly closing an old chapter, and opening one filled with peace. For many of you, this is a time to love again, not in the old way, but in a way that is honest, mature, unapologetically real. Just when you thought the book was closed, a connection, new or old, rises again. But this time you arrive carrying a version of yourself that is healed. And the question is, when was the last time you were deeply heard? Not just your words, but your silences, the things you didn't speak out loud. A new emotional phase is approaching, and it's not here to overwhelm you, but to nourish you, to hold you, to build from a place of safety, where you can be yourself, where your emotions aren't judged. Let me place a truth in your hands, still warm like morning sunlight. Real love does not come to rescue you. It comes to walk beside you, and that energy is beginning to appear in your field. There is a connection forming or returning where you don't have to earn love by effort, where childish tests are no longer needed, where peace, trust, and the feeling of being seen move to the center of everything. And at the same time, from the unseen world, I can feel the movement of your ancestors, of spirit guides watching over the fire. In the house of your soul, you have never truly been alone. The signs, the synchronicities, the right words arriving at the right moment, they are not accidents. They are the invisible hands setting the table ahead of you, as if someone has been quietly preparing a seat, a celebration long awaited. But I also whisper to you now, the way someone gently tucks a blanket over a loved one who has fallen asleep. Do not measure what's coming with the ruler of old pain. When someone new steps in, memories can sometimes carry the ghosts of the past, and you, in unconscious caution, may react to wounds that haven't even happened. Let this experience be written in a new language, not distorted by memory, not rushed by the fear of repetition. Real love doesn't need armor, it needs presence. A clear gaze, a touch that doesn't overpower. And in the middle of that scene, the 4 of Swords appears, not as a warning, but as an invitation. Rest, truly rest. Not just your body, but rest from the overthinking, rest from the efforting. Place your hand on your chest, feel your breath. Know that you don't have to handle everything today. Stopping doesn't mean giving up, it means making space for what is sacred and on its way in. In stillness, you don't just hear your own heart, you hear the call of what's approaching. And in that holy pause, I invite you to speak a vow, as if engraving it into your soul. I allow myself to be loved gently, without fear, without hiding. I open my heart to love that is mature, clear, and respectful. You don't have to shout, just speak it truthfully. And if your voice trembles, that's okay. The universe does not require perfection, only honesty. And then, as if responding to your words, two cards appear like sacred confirmation: King of Cups and Four of Pentacles. A heart that has learned to listen to itself, and a financial foundation growing steadier beneath your feet. It doesn't mean money falls from the sky, but I see you no longer choosing from fear. You know when to invest and when to rest. And from that place, abundance arrives as the natural result of awakening. True love is the love you offer yourself for your rest, for your home, not just a shelter, but a place that feeds your spirit. The King of Cups is not just a card. It could be someone who comes into your life or someone already there, not to overwhelm you, but to walk beside you, to stay present when you need quiet, to listen when words fail, to see you truly see you. And finally, I want to leave you with a soft image. Like the golden light at the end of the day, you on a quiet morning, a warm cup of tea in your hands, sitting in a room full of light. Nothing is perfect, but somehow everything has finally fallen into place. Not because you controlled it all, but because you released what was never yours to carry. And you chose the most sacred thing of all, to become your own place of refuge. And to you, the one who's been fighting quietly with a courageous heart, there are still things to tend to, things that cannot be rushed. In the next part of your journey, we'll walk together into a space you've often set aside. The raw emotions you put on hold so you could handle everything. The shadows you avoided because you didn't yet have the words. Not because you were weak, but because you had been strong for too long. Strong to the point you didn't allow yourself to fall, because you believed others needed you to be unbreakable. Now a path opens up. Not a grand boulevard lined with fireworks, but a quiet, private road where you can finally sit down and not have to explain why you're tired. The first card that appears is the moon, not by accident, but perfectly on time. In your case, I see the moonlight as a mother cradling the dreams you've never dared to speak. The daughter of the moon, the son of intuition. This card doesn't speak in words. It speaks through the feelings you've always carried, but never knew how to name. The moon sees what hides behind your smiling eyes. It touches you in the nights when sleep won't come, when the world goes silent and you keep replaying the moments no one else knows about. The questions, the choices, the times you hoped someone would just understand what you were holding in your heart, without you needing to explain it. How many times have you stood at crossroads, waiting for someone else's approval, instead of trusting the truth your body already knew? How much longer will you keep doubting your most sacred gift, your intuition? You were told you were too sensitive, that you overreacted, that you imagined too much. And so, instead of trusting the storm inside, you stepped outside of it, when in truth, that storm was your compass. The moon does not come to judge you. She comes to whisper. You knew, you always knew. And you were never wrong. It's time to sit with what you once silenced. As if you're listening to a childhood melody, no lyrics, but unmistakable. And then the hermit appears. Not flashy, not loud. He brings no thunderous message. Just a small, steady lantern. He's not running away, he's simply stepping away, to listen to the one voice that matters most, his own. And that's what you need right now, a sacred quiet, not isolation but medicine. Maybe you're tired of surface-level conversations, half-hearted connections, relationships where you have to hide your soul to feel safe. You're done paying the price for being misunderstood. Your spirit longs for depth now. For a place where you can sit at a table, pour tea, and speak your truth even if your voice trembles. You don't need to be labeled interesting. You just want to be real. And when you choose to walk into the darkness to find your light, you are no longer afraid. You realize the things that once broke you are now just small waves beneath your feet. You've outgrown the pain, not by ignoring it, but by learning how to walk through it. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means honoring that you've completed the lesson. Healing isn't perfect, but it's real, and that is enough. Then comes judgment, not to punish, but to awaken. No tragedy needed, no breakdown required, just you looking back and saying, yes, it hurt, but I'm still here. I've learned, I understand. Every stumble, every goodbye, every word you wished you'd said, all of it brought you here, to this moment, where you can see yourself, without apology. One day you'll say, now I understand, and when that day comes, the weight won't disappear, but it will no longer be yours to carry. You don't have to hold it anymore, and I want you to hold onto this truth, like the hand of someone you love deeply. You did the best you could with what you had at that moment in time, and that is enough. You don't need to punish yourself anymore. You don't need to go back and fix what cannot be undone. Life doesn't ask you to return to the past, only to understand it and walk forward with a higher truth, and that truth is growing inside you now, like a small flame being protected in your palms. You're understanding, you're recovering, and that is the gift. No one can take it from you now, and quietly, like a soft breath in the dark, I feel the presence of someone who has always watched over you. Not loud, not demanding, a loyal friendship. A soul who needs no words to connect. Maybe someone in the present moment, who doesn't need grand gestures, but somehow shows up in the most silent, faithful way. They think of you more than you know. He wants you to be happy, in his own quiet way. He's learned to love you without needing to possess you. And if a name just flashed in your mind, don't dismiss it. That is your intuition speaking. And intuition is never random. Remember that name when an unexpected message arrives, when a hand reaches out just in time, when a single glance gives you strength you didn't know you needed. And let me gently remind you of this. Your body, your chest, your back, your belly is speaking to you, my love. These places are your emotional compass. They carry pain long before your mind understands it. They hold pressure that never had words, sorrow you bit your lip to contain, exhaustion that never made it to tears. And now, the cramps, the fatigue without cause, the waves of stillness, they are not threats. They are invitations to return, to listen. Tend to your body the way you once tended to others, with gentleness, reverence, no conditions. Wrap yourself in warmth, both in fabric and in feeling. Cook something familiar, the kind of meal that once made you feel nourished. Go outside, let the ocean touch your skin, or at least the wind. Soak in warm salt water. Place your hand over your heart as you breathe. And trust this, when you treat your body like a temple, it will return to you as home. I want to offer you a small ritual, symbolic yet powerful. If these words have touched you deeply, leave a comment below, not just as affirmation, but as a quiet spell you cast for yourself. I honor my story, I honor my heart, and I welcome what's new. When you write this, you light a tiny, steady candle on the path ahead, and that light will guide you through the turns you thought you'd walk alone. And then, as if the curtain lifted at dawn, 3 cards revealed themselves to me. The Sun, 2 of Cups, Ace of Cups. The sun rose first, radiant, unapologetic, and whispered this to you. Joy won't arrive in disguise anymore. It will come clearly, boldly, without confusion. No more tangled connections, no more hidden meanings. Just the clarity of waking up one morning and feeling light again. You'll feel gratitude before even counting what you have. You'll know you're on the right path, not because life is easy, but because you're looking at it with different eyes. The eyes of someone who has chosen to live truthfully. Next to the sun, the 2 of Cups pulses like a mirrored heartbeat. A meeting, not necessarily romantic, but soul deep. It could be a new beginning or a reconnection with brand new energy. For some of you, it's love. For others, it's friendship that becomes family. And for others still, it's a companion who shows up right on time, no more, no less. And then, when you thought your heart had no room left to open, the Ace of Cups overflows like the ocean after years of quiet waiting. This is rebirth, an invitation to open, not from fear of loss, but from the knowing that you are already full. Tears may come, but these are tears of surrender, relief, and renewal. That card also reminds us, loving yourself isn't luxury. It's the beginning of living true. Lower the expectations, raise the gentleness. See yourself through the eyes you once used for others. And from that root, every other relationship will bloom on its own. In the coming days, you'll notice something. The answers no longer lie in others. They rise from within, maybe in a spontaneous step, an old photo, the smell of soup your mother once made, a forgotten melody in an old song, and then you'll quietly say to yourself, "Ah, now I understand." No need to explain, no need for applause, but you'll know you've changed forever. At last, the star appears. A soft whisper from the universe. You are not alone, you are on the right path. Invisible hands are guiding the way. The star doesn't promise fantasy. It glows in the most ordinary things. A warm conversation, a hug without reason, a slow afternoon, a song that soothes your soul, and through them, you'll restore your faith in yourself, in your intuition, your truest compass. You don't need more proof, you just need one nod from your soul. And once you live by intuition, life itself will rearrange to welcome you properly. Before we end, take one deep breath, all the way in, and release like waves touching the shore. I am proud of you for not giving up, for feeling it all, for allowing yourself to be real. The road ahead doesn't need to be loud. It only needs to be right, and that moment is now. May these words be your lamp in the dark, your soft blanket in restless sleep, your mirror to remind you that gentle light you've been searching for. It's still coming from you. This chapter of your story isn't closing. In fact, the light held by the moon, protected by the sea, is just now beginning to rise. Thank you for sitting at this table and letting me speak to your heart just like this. And so it is.